Welcome, everybody. My name is Margaret Pennard. Welcome to my channel. You're on Booktube. And if you look closely in my background, you will see a reference to a literary character. I just realized that little Paddington was in the shot earlier, a couple days ago, and I thought I'd bring that to anyone's attention. Yes, I'm an Anglophile. If you didn't know that, now you know. So we're here today to talk about book reviews for a Wednesday wrap up. And I've got 6 books in the last couple weeks that I've gone through, 5 physical books and 1 ebook. And no audiobooks because even though it's audiobook a month, the one I'm listening to is so long. I'm not going to finish it by Monday. So unfortunately that means no audiobooks in audiobook month. What can you do? So we're going to cover those books, but I also have a couple announcements that I was going to just put out there at the very beginning, which is, dun, 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 dun. It's open somewhere. Where is it open? Okay, well, I will grab the link again because I have too many tabs open. This is what we're doing. I can go to my channel, go to my community tab, and that is where I put the link. So there we go. So something exciting today. I usually have the Wednesday wrap up, but today I have an additional appearance on someone else's channel, and it's for the AWC because that is happening this weekend. So Kat D. Graham hosts the AWC team. There we go. So I will be concluding with enough time to head over to her channel and get in the backstage for that. So if you're curious and you're just in front of the computer, we'll be chatting about AWC stuff, I guess. So the woman herself is here, Esty Houston. She made friends with the like button. Nice. Eva is here. Hello, hello. And we're just going to jump into our first book. And that's happening this weekend, in case you don't know. So the first book, this is in chronological order. So I'm going to go with my research read. If this is not familiar to anyone, it's a library sleeve that they put on books that are used in interlibrary loan. So that means that I requested this book from my library and they said, hey, other libraries, have you got this book? And they sent it on over because they're so nice. So it's called The Affairs of Others, The Diaries of Francis Place from 1825 to 1836. And there was a lot of interesting stuff in there. I did go a little crazy with the color system. But not exactly what I was looking for, of course. But it was very interesting. His humor is quite modern. So he's writing mostly in 1825 and 26, which is a little earlier than I wanted. But he has very similar thoughts over the years that are represented. And some of them are issue related, some of them are politics related. But the phrase, the affairs of others, refers to the fact that basically he spends all his days having people visit him, tell him their problems, and then try to help them fix them. So it's kind of like he's a pro bono lawyer. He had a trade and he got well enough to do that he had other people working for him and could sort of retire and then help other people organize in the political process for reform, which is what I'm featuring in my book. So it was like a very, I wouldn't say intimate is the word, but like personal, because you're hearing his voice, his personal journaling, basically, and his frustrations and his like mocking people and like, oh, this happened again. And the way he goes out for walks with his wife like almost every day. It just seemed really personal and like interesting. So I'm not expecting that, Cambridge University Press is going to be on everyone's wish list. And of course, it's not going to be affordable because it's university press. But if you can find this in your library, why not? I found it very interesting and scanned most of it. And again, got some juicy tidbits that you might see turn up in my book. We'll see. He's in London. Again, that's the other thing is that I'm setting mine in Glasgow, and it's kind of a trip to go down to London. We've got a Devon in the house. Hello, hello, and a Jocelyn Carter. Hello, hello. Hey guys, welcome. So 1 down, 5 to go. The next one, I think this is in the right order, chronological, is a poetry book. It's also from the library. You can tell from the barcode. You Are Here, Poetry in the Natural World, edited and introduced by Ada Limon. And she is the 24th Poet Laureate of the United States. And what's interesting is that I didn't know that when you were Poet Laureate, you had like a project to do, kind of like a thesis. And I guess you're supported and funded. So like if you ever had a dream that you wanted to do with poetry, this is your chance. You have reached the heights, right? And so this was her idea, is focusing on poetry in the natural world and collecting poems from poets around the world. I don't know if it's just US or around the world, but I was familiar with a lot of the names, which surprised me. This is a Milkweed production. They do lots of contemporary and poetry and like literary stuff. And I didn't turn down any corners because this is a brand new book. I think it just came out like last month. It just says 2024, so I can't exactly tell. But yeah, there were a couple that were about trees. There were a couple that were like didn't hit with me at all. And there were a couple that were really great. I liked this theme as an organizing theme, and so I really liked that this was her chosen project. And while I don't know her poetry very well, I did get to know some new names that I might see again. So that was really cool. And in case Leslie comes by to watch this, Hanif Abdurraqib does have a poem in here, and it was like midway through. There are more ways to show devotion. So it could have been published somewhere else, but I was very excited to see these names that I know from friends' interests and preferences. And, the right month to read that might have been April, National Poetry Month, but we're not sticklers here. We are definitely not. Then number 3, I've got a couple historical books. So we'll do the historicals and the contemporaries. Chronologically, The Coffin Path by Catherine Clements. This is a historical fiction novel that takes place in the 17th century, so out of my bailiwick. And the coffin path refers to the pathway that very isolated communities in the hills would take. That was the on foot pathway to get coffins when people died down to the cemetery where they could be buried, because that was like a central location where their church was. So you've already got the idea that it's about a small isolated community, and it's in the Yorkshire area. So it's about shepherding, and like the past for these characters involves the English Civil War. So that's something I don't know a lot about, but you didn't really have to. It was all about Gothic horror and like supernatural vibes. And if you're in for a creepy read, if you like a creepy read, you are in for a treat. And I will just say that I read this as a buddy read with Christy Stratos. And we had our discussion on Sunday, I believe, although it already seems like a year ago. And we both really found interesting things about it, and a couple things that we would have done differently, but very good. And we'll maybe look up the author for other books, because she's done a couple others. She seems to like the Gothic vibe. So if that is your thing, you have found a new name. So historical. The next historical I have is an Anne Perry. Anne Perry passed away last year after a long and very prolific writing career, and the kerfuffle about her crimes as a youth in Australia. So she took a new name and she wrote crime fiction. And I read a few of the Thomas and Charlotte Pitt series, which was her first. And then I really liked her William Monk series. And so, wonder of wonders, Margaret is actually trying to complete a series. Now, I'm not going about it in order, but I am going back. So I've read a few forward, and I want to find the ones that were when William Monk got married, like right after. There's like things that shift in his career and characters that leave and characters that are introduced. And so I was like, oh, what happened to that? Plot, subplot. And so I'm going back and um so I reviewed Weight in the Balance. Which I was profoundly disappointed by in my last wrap up, I believe, because I could totally tell what the actual crime was and it wasn't suspenseful at all. So I was like, "Okay, come on, give me a good one," because there's a few duds, but like most of them I really enjoy. And I enjoy Anne Perry's writing because number one, her historical fiction has lots of facts dropped in, like nothing, like really cool um people you will hear on the street or smells you will smell or etiquette or like ways of determining class divisions, things that she's really put time into, it would seem. And so I really enjoy that aspect. And also when she goes between different points of view as a third person point of view, but different characters, it's it's giving a lot of angst, but not in a modern way, like in a this is how it just really feels how a historical character would feel about things, like the gender sort of inhibitions are there and the class divisions and the hierarchy. So, like, the stuff that happens with, Monk and his job with the police and how people consider the police and how he considers his supervisor, and there's echoes to modern times of how people will feel in those situations, but it just feels very particularly in this time, in this place, and I really like that. So, Funeral in Blue, so the last one was an excuse to go to Venice. He travels to Venice, and this is an excuse to go to where is it? It's somewhere in Hungary or Vienna. Vienna. I haven't been to Vienna, so it didn't stick. Um, there's a side plot about, well, is it a spoiler? Yeah, I guess I won't say it because it's somewhat of a spoiler, but um there's just side things that sort of go nowhere, and so it's not as much of a disappointment because I was more surprised than the last one, but, like, this is why I don't complete series, y'all, like, some of them are bound to be better than others, and so I feel like if I take a every few, I will enjoy it enough to be like, "Okay, that's still good," rather than going like, "Yay, yay. What the heck was that?" Anyway, it's a really long series, there's, like, 20 something books, and, maybe I'll just go back and forward and fill in the cracks, as it were. Okay, that's book 4. Um, oh, and before I do the last 2 contemporary, maybe this would be a good time to do a break and say, something about my AWC talk. So, I am in the process of editing a pre-recorded portion. What does that mean? I'm giving a presentation on Saturday at 2 p.m. Pacific on my channel for the conference, and it's going to be about um, research and writing and sort of the tension between the two, especially in terms of your writing process and your confidence in being able to incorporate the research that you've done into the writing that you want to be great, right? So I've recorded several times and like that's helping me get it more coherent. And I'm going to try to do some cool editing things, but it probably won't come off. So don't expect cool editing things. I'll just put that out there. I just wanted to try something different. And yeah, so I'll be talking about my writing process, which is more personal than I've gotten for an AWC talk. So pretty vulnerable and we'll definitely be open for questions. So if anyone out there is a writer who is like, or maybe has known the struggle of saying, oh, I still need to build this world a little more. I still need some details. I still need to investigate this tangent that is 13 degrees removed from the actual story. I still need to figure out what the great great grand niece's name is going to be in that time and place. Like, if there are obvious signs that you're like, something is preventing me from writing and it's the research, it's a crutch, then I'm going to help you try to talk about your feelings and how we can get back to the page if that's where you should be. So join us on Saturday for my talk on my channel and take a look at the schedule on authortubewritingconference.com to look at everyone else's presentations because there's a wide variety. There's a lot that are like related. And so that'll be really cool to see how they like, meld or reference each other. That would be really cool to see. So that'll be fun this weekend. Let's see. It was great. It's on my TBR for later this year. Which book is that? Is that the poetry book? Can't remember. Shannon says, so looking forward to your presentation. Yeah. The nerves, right? The nerves. Okay. So the last section of today's wrap up is going to be contemporary books. There's just two contemporaries, and one is a thriller. I would call it a climate thriller, cli-fi, or literary thriller, I suppose. Once There Were Wolves by Charlotte McConaughey. This is her second book. So the reason it's associated with climate and like Climathon, one of my favorite readathons that goes all year long, is that it's about the reintroduction of wolves into a forest space, and this time it's in Scotland. But basically, it's copying the famous case in Yellowstone and how people learned that having a predator in an ecosystem can help even out the sort of pecking order of species in such a way that it helps bring things back into balance. For example, and don't quote me on this, but I think the Yellowstone chain was something like wolves um, uh, predate or eat the population of elk. And that means there's not too many elk, so they don't eat everything in sight. So then trees have a chance to grow up by the river, and then like that changes actual banks of the river, and the rivers run a different way. And so maybe that changes whether your flooding or your droughts or whatever are in each year. So interesting research and like cool to learn about some science. The interesting thing is with this one is that I did this for a Patreon buddy read. It was one of the ones we did not vote on before, and then we did like a best of didn't win before. We chose this one. And do I have this one either? Oh, wait. I did this as a banner, that's why. There we go. Patreon book club, and that's the link, Patreon_MP4. So we had a great discussion about this on Sunday as well. So I was all about the buddy reads on Sunday. And I was talking with two scientists, and they were like, this was a no, that was a no, that was a major flag. And I was like, whoa, I did not see most of this. We picked apart some of the plot points and, obviously some of the science, but I thought it was really well written. And a lot of it is about mirroring the wild environment and the human environment and dealing with trauma. And so there was a lot to delve through and be compelled by without having to be totally accurate within, So yeah, I'm excited. I enjoyed it, and then I really enjoyed the discussion. So I know Jim of Jim's books reading and stuff gives this a 5-star. I think it will probably be a little less for me, but I did really like the writing. And so yeah, it's finally off my list. I've had this for at least 2 years, maybe 3. Final contemporary is going to be ebook. So for some reason, I looked at this and I was just like, that looks like a good read right now. I think I want to dive into this romance. So this is a contemporary romance. It's called Strictly Business by Carrie Elks. And I'm sure there's lots of books by that title. So unfortunately, it's not very easy to just type that into your browser, but Carrie Elks has a whole site, has a whole newsletter. So she's probably easier to find. And this is the first in a series that she has. I have to say right off the bat, I'm not a huge fan of the covers. they're very flat. They're like cartoon characters with all the shading and depth taken out. So it's just like flat color. I don't know what that's called. There's probably a term for it. But that said, the book was really good. So it was about someone who is in a publishing company and helps publish children's books and is an editor and has some she's single and she has obviously she has some uh, major changes coming up in her life, right? And she's contemplating these big steps that she's going to take even as a single woman because she really wants to be a mother. And so that's going on. Meanwhile, her place of work, the business where she works is like really going to go through the ringer. So there's lots of changes thrown at her from that angle and they sort of meet somehow. And it's a typical enemies to lovers workplace romance. And what's funny is I think I said this in one of JC's live streams. Like I'm going after these workplace romances and Lord knows why because I don't have a workplace. Like I work from home. So maybe this is like scratching that itch of having a workplace and colleagues and intrigue. I don't know, but this is like the second or third that I've read. I really like the workplace romances. I don't know. Anyway, the romance Strictly Business was really fun. It was really, an emotional and romantic and well supported and the characters were endearing. And there's this one funny part where she says, "Why are you always looking at me like you want to kill me?" And he's like, "You mean like this?" And he like imitates his face. And she's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "That's not trying to kill you. That's like, you're the hottest woman I've ever seen. And I can't let anyone see it on my face. Look." And I was like, it's like the miscommunication that finally gets revealed when they've trusted each other. And I'm like, see, that's brilliant. You let your characters have a moment. It was very cute. Um, and it wasn't too like artificial about how they make things work or fall apart. So I just really liked it and thought she was really good at plotting and getting characters right. So that was really fun. Um, Sheridan saying the nerves. Why do you think I don't do a presentation? Well, you're presenting the whole time. That's why. That's why. Devin's laughing at you. And blase covers are in. I'm not a fan of the cartoon covers either. But it's not even like graphic or cartoon because I bet I don't have any around here because these are all my research books. But do I? Nope. But when I look at some, maybe I have some here. Let's see. Oh, nope. Okay. They have like coloring in their face to make it look three-dimensional. This is literally blank faces. Like you're supposed to color in a face. And I'm like, why? It's almost as annoying to me as the trend with historical fiction covers where they have the women. What do they do? They cut her off here so you can't see the top and you can just see like the bottom of her face. And I'm like, what is the point? You're just taking away her agency. Stop it. I will not have it. So anyway, that was a long diatribe about covers, but yeah. The cartoon characters are becoming very popular, says Shannon, in the romance genre. Oh, I think they've been that way for a while. I've heard discussions, especially in contemporary romance, about how people are tired of them and want something different. The thing is, they're getting different covers from different genres. So this contemporary romance are still betting on the sort of safe middle of the road, and other people like dark romance or fantasy romance, they're really going with like cool, pretty covers. I don't know that anyone looks at one of these and goes, "Wow," It's just like, okay, I know what it's going to do, but yeah, they need to experiment more, get some new ideas in there. That's just my opinion. So that is my 6 books wrap up. And what else is going to be happening? I have a final Friday, this Friday morning. It's going to be a busy week ladies and gents. Friday morning, I have a planning session, and then I have a final Friday live stream at 9:30 Pacific. So we'll do that for 2 hours, which I don't think conflicts with the AWC. If it does, I'll just move it earlier or curtail it early. I do need to look up the times and get those in my calendar. No, it definitely will. It definitely will, because if my presentation is at 2 and 5, no, because it's Friday. No, that's Saturday. Saturday at 2, Friday it starts much later. See, this is why I need to get the times in my calendar so that I can, like, see it. Yeah. So, hopefully we're all feeling like this dizzy brain fatigue right now. We will all take some rest and come back swinging for this week's writer conference. Oh, perfect. Opening session is at 3 Eastern, which is 12, so I can wrap it up at 11 and hop right on over. Yeah, Devin says, I have a friend who loves those covers. It turns me away from the books. It's weird. Jocelyn says, same here. Same here with turns me away from the books, I'm guessing. Speaking of books, I'm wearing special book earrings. I don't know. Seems like a special day. So on that note, thank you everyone for watching. I am here Sundays and Wednesdays and love to be a big bookish nerd. So hope you come back and be a big bookish nerd with me. Have a wonderful week. If you are a writer and interested in all that stuff, see you this weekend. See you Friday possibly. And take care, everyone. Stay safe. And yeah, see you soon.